Lesson 8, Variables, Data and Analysis. Keywords: independent, dependent, control, variable, results and data. Have a go at the first knowledge check. Pause the video and try the questions. Question 1. Robert Bunsen invented the Bunsen burner. Question 2. The bottom part of the Bunsen burner is the base. Question 3. A yellow flame is used to light the Bunsen burner. Question 4. A collar controls the flame. Question 5. Temperature is how hot or cold something is. Question 6. Hazard symbols identify dangers. Question 7. The two languages in science are Latin and Greek. Question 8. We always wear goggles when doing practicals. Overview. Assess what variables are and how to collect data. Compare different ways to analyze data. Variables or things that we change. Variables are an element, feature or factor that is liable to vary, change or differ. There are three types of variable. The independent variable, this is the thing that you change. The dependent variable is a factor that changes depending on the feature you changed before. For example, if you change the type of flame on the Bunsen burner, that's the independent variable, then the temperature of the flame will change, that's a dependent variable. And usually the easy way to remember the dependent variable is the one that we measure. Then there are control variables. This is everything else in the investigation that remains the same. Example: volume of liquid, start temperature, length of time, etc. So remember, control variables are the ones that we keep the same. So the independent variable is the one that changes, the dependent variable is the one we measure, and the control variables are the ones we keep the same. Learning activity. In this learning activity we're going to look at some practicals and you're going to try and identify the independent variable, the dependent variable and the control variables. Pause the video and have a go. Does adding salt to pure water affect the temperature it boils at? The independent variable is the mass of salt. The dependent variable is the boiling temperature, and control variables can include volume of water, type of salt, equipment. Practical 2. Does the amount of light affect the number of wood lice found? The independent variable is the amount of light. The dependent variable is the number of wood lice. The control variables can include the habitat, example, temperature, moisture, etc. Practical number 3. Does the amount of air affect the length of time the candle burns for? The independent variable is a volume. The dependent variable is the time candle burns for. Control variables can include the same type of candle, same person measuring the time. Next experiment. Size of the magnet is the independent variable. Strength of the magnet is the dependent variable. And control variables is the type of magnets and conditions such as the temperature of the lab. Next practical. Does the color of the filter affect the color of the light? The independent variable is the filter color. The dependent variable, the color of the light. Control variables can include light source, lab conditions, person. Does the number of batteries affect the brightness of the bulb? Independent variable is number of batteries. Dependent variable is the brightness of the bulb. Control variables is the same type of battery, same equipment, etc. Next practical, does hearing range decrease with age? Independent variable is age of person. The dependent variable is hearing range. Control variable is the equipment and the environment. Next practical, does the area exposed on a solar cell affect the voltage? Independent variable is area of exposure. Dependent variable is voltage generated. Control variables can include light intensity and type of solar panel. Next practical, does more salt dissolve as the temperature of the water goes up? The independent variable is the temperature of the water. The dependent variable is the amount of salt. The independent variables can include the volume of water or the equipment used. And the last practical, does the angle of reflection of a ray depend on the angle of the incident ray? The independent variable is angle of incidence. The dependent variable is angle of reflection, and control variables can include the equipment. Data. When carrying out scientific experiments, you want to produce repeatable, reproducible, accurate and precise data. To check if they are repeatable, you need to repeat the experiment yourself at least 3 times. Then you need to check your results are reproducible, comparing the results with sets of results with each other. Your data needs to be accurate. This usually depends on the method and measuring the correct variable. Precise results are the ones where the data is really close to the mean average of your repeated results and not spread out. Sometimes you can get a result that does not seem to fit in with the rest of the results. These are called anomalous results. You should try to figure out why you have an anomalous result and omit these from your calculations. By repeatable, we mean you get the same results. Reproducible, others get the same result. Accurate, how close you are to the real value. Precise, how close together the results are. Always check for anomalies in your data. Learning activity. We can plot graphs to show trends and anomalous results. Bar charts are used to compare data that can be put into discrete categories. Whereas line graphs are better to show how 2 variables change in relationship to each other. Categoric data usually takes discrete values, usually in one group only. So for example, you can be in girls or boys. Line charts are usually used to show variable data, and the data is usually continuous. which means there's no breaks. When drawing a graph, it is important to know where you place information. Look at the diagram below. The dependent data goes on the y-axis. The independent data goes on the x-axis. This diagram shows what a good graph should look like. It has clear labels for the axis. The axes are drawn using a ruler and a pencil. A curve is placed through the points. If it's a straight line, then you'd use a ruler. You should always use a pencil. And when you draw a graph, you should always try and use at least 3/4 of the page. Using the data, draw the correct graph type. but should be as close as possible to as many points on the graph. Now have a go at the last knowledge check. Pause the video and try the questions.